Hello and welcome to the year 2018. Highlights of major events that shaped the year. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
And I'm Millicent Walker. What a year it's been, from the political tension characteristic of a year preceding an election year to concerns over renewed security threats and industrial action by Nigerian workers.
Yes, and it was indeed a year that Nigerians will not forget in a hurry. We'll start from politics. And political parties had their hands full as they had to choose their flag bearers for next year's polls.
For the ruling All Progressives Congress, while its primary elections for governorship and National Assembly recorded some controversies, its presidential primary held without much ado, and that's because President Muhammadu Buhari turned out to be the only candidate. And so, when party faithfuls gathered in Abuja for the party's convention in July, all they had to do was ratify the president's candidacy.
It's a special national convention of the All Progressive Congress taking place in Abuja. With about 7,000 delegates from across the country, it's an occasion to affirm the party's candidate for the 2019 presidential election. Party members had voted through direct primaries across the country for the only aspirant, President Muhammadu Buhari.
We look at their records. If they are former governors, we will go to their states. And we will call on their people to show all the evidence of what they have accomplished in their state.
The results of the presidential primary election was then collated and the results announced.
Yes or nay? The yes definitely have it. President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, is hereby confirmed as the winner of the direct presidential primary of the All Progressives Congress.
With the candidature of President Muhammadu Buhari affirmed, it was time for his acceptance speech.
It is with a deep sense of humility that I stand before you today to accept the nomination of our party, the All Progressives Congress, to be its candidate and flag bearer in the 2019 presidential elections. I thank you for staying committed to the change agenda. I accept this honor as a tribute and mark of confidence to carry the responsibility as we all join hands to continue the good work of the All Progressive Congress government to 2023 and beyond.
For the All Progressive Congress, the stage is now set to take on other candidates vying for the office of the president in the 2019 election. Lanre Lasese, Channels Television News.
Now, either by design or by sheer coincidence, the main opposition party also held its own convention on the same day, but in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital. If the APC just had to affirm the candidacy of President Buhari, it was not so for the PDP, as over 10 candidates had to slug it out for the party's ticket. At the end of the all-night election, however, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar emerged as the party's flag bearer.
Dear delegates, as you must have been following developments in our country since our last convention, you will agree with me that all is not well with our nation. The situation in our country today is very disturbing, as the ruling APC has progressively shown in all ramifications that it lacks the wherewithal to manage this country. May I appeal to you, delegates, to note that the choice you make today from among our eminently qualified aspirants each of whom has an extraordinary record of leadership achievements, will go a long way in rescuing our nation from the inept governance of the APC.
We cannot afford to fail Nigerians at this very historic moment, because Nigerians are yearning for the return of PDP to power, because they have now compared the administration of PDP and that of APC. They know that under PDP, they had years of prosperity, of unity, of security, and of development. And therefore, we have a wonderful opportunity to return PDP to power in this country. History has beckoned all of us at this point in time to make sure that the PDP is returned to power.
Let's kick off now. Let's welcome our guests who are joining us from our Abuja studios. Mr. Kola Olagbodiyan, National Publicity Secretary, the People's Democratic Party. The Chairman, Buhari Media Organization, Niyi Akinsiju, also in Abuja. And from here in Lagos, we would like to thank Rotimi Paseda, SDP governorship candidate, Ogun State, for joining us in the studio.
Thank you for having me.
Well, yes, indeed. So it's not just about the APC and the PDP, as we saw in those conventions. The SDP, well, Mr. Paseda, seeing the convention, the way both parties held it, there's some who may think that that can be interpreted as some momentum for those political parties. Is your party, the SDP, in any way intimidated?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We actually held our convention, even though we, as a party, were a bit more low-key and more subtle in our approach. We are trying to bring something completely new into the politics of Nigeria. We want a clean, fresh, and resilient group of people to come out.
Is it clear-cut now? So I know that the court had to intervene.
Yes, it's still in court. So actually today, the court had to serve the defendant another document today. So it's not something that we discuss at the moment because we don't know which way it's going to go. Either way, it doesn't really matter for us in SDP. We actually follow the rule of law, and that's what matters.
Perhaps let's talk to our guests who are in Abuja. What did you see about, especially the emergence of over 90 political parties? If we could talk to Mr. Olagbodiyan, if you can go ahead. If you heard my question,
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
What are your thoughts on the emergence of over 90 political parties? Do you think that this is a positive development?
Well, for us in the People's Democratic Party, the more the merrier. We are not bothered about the number of parties that are going to participate in the 2019 election. What's important to us in the People's Democratic Party is the narrative that we have set. And what is the narrative? The narrative is not about the number of political parties that will run the election. The narrative is about the massive failures of the President Muhammadu Buhari administration. And the narrative is very clear that if you go among Nigerians today, they will tell you they have never been this hungry in the history of our nation. We have never witnessed the kind of division that exists in our country today. And that the low level of purchasing power among Nigerians today is unknown in our history as a people. So these are the narratives. And when you talk about division, it will also lead you to the level of insecurity when the APC came into government in 2015. Insurgency had been chased to the fringes of our nation. But today, the insurgents are no longer attacking soft targets. They are going for our military formations.
Kola, if I could jump in, Kola.
These are our concerns in the People's Democratic Party.
Yeah,